Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got tacos and tech is on smash. For the green, guacamole, keep accountants counting beans. Contador cuentan frijoles, founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego, school of rappy, rapping fire. Tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee, my coding yoga posse, fold the body, origami. We be surfing Coronado, eating tacos el gordo. The taco stand in puesto, lucha libre and sombrero. Gotta shout out Tecos Daniels by the ocean, watch the sunset. La Jolla shores, entrepreneurs trying to get funded. When San Diego Startup Week is popping in the summer, Oceanside to Tijuana, SD be full of hustlers. From couch surfing to penthouses right on the beach. Tech leaders who believe stars are within reach. We interviewing founders who be shooting for the moon. Hashtag SD Techos with your host, Neal Bloom. Come on! Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got it, hey! Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got it, hey!
And welcome back to the Tacos and Tech podcast. I'm your host, Neal Bloom, and I am thrilled to have on Floyd Auten from TechNet, the COO and co-founder. Hey, Floyd, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, likewise. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a bit over this. We're both fellow North County tech workers, co-founders of companies, and I'm excited to kind of hear your backstory, what you're working on, what gets you going in the day. Give us a little background on your end. How'd you get started in the tech world? What was your entrant into it?
Yeah, so my entry goes back a little bit of ways. I actually got started with my grandfather. He's 99 this year. I think in July we'll turn 99 years old, and one of the last few World War II vets that are still around. But he actually was an electrician and he was in the Navy. And when he got out of the Navy after World War II, started an electrical contracting company here in Southern California, and built schools, hospitals, universities. I mean, employed hundreds of people over the years. And my dad actually took over that business. I'm one of 7 kids, so big family.
Wow.
So we all got the opportunity. I think the first time I started working for my dad, I was probably maybe between my sophomore and junior year in high school. So I still remember my first day. I was supposed to start on a job site at 6 in the morning. I woke up at about 8:30 in a panic because I slept through my alarm. And I still remember my first day. I went to the job site and I got so much grief from everybody out there. It was really fun. My first task, and this is a great story. I tell this to my kids all the time. My first task was to dig a hole that we were going to install this electrical vault in, right? So I had these really precise measurements, and I spent all day with a shovel and a pick just digging this really perfect hole. And throughout the day, my foreman would come by and he would check on it and just see how I was doing, take measurements, and kind of coach me through it. And then the end of the day came, and I was so excited because I dug this amazing hole, and he said, "Good job. Now fill the hole back in." So that was my start in the industry, right? So kind of a funny story. And I was a technician for a few years, working on fiber optic projects, wireless networking, all of that kind of stuff. And it's kind of how I got my start in the industry. And it took a few years, but I actually realized that I was providing a really valuable service, right? Like building this infrastructure for these companies, and something that they could build their company, build the infrastructure of their company. Like, that stuff's important, and like without it, companies don't work. There's not technology, you don't have electricity, like all of the really basic things, right?
Yeah. It's really empowering to feel that right away, and to feel like you're kind of gotten the crafts passed down through the generations as well too. And obviously technology changed over time too, right? Like they obviously weren't putting broadband lines and Cat 5 together in World War II, but same kind of mentality of like this is important and this needs to get done to connect people, which I'm sure feels really great.
No, it's cool. And I think that's really where I got my entrepreneurial spirit was from my grandfather and my dad and watching them build a business. And it's exciting because this type of business, and even in the infrastructure business, you can see what you built, right? And
Yeah,
that's kind of unique, right?
totally.
So kind of went through that, became a project manager, and learned the ropes of the trade. And one day in 2012, I got this wild idea with my best friend, and I actually, we've been best friends since the second grade, and we were like, let's start a company. This is awesome. Of course, we had no idea what we were getting into and what that would become, or how difficult it was. But we really wanted to build this tech company that was more than just like installing cables, right? We wanted to be a full service technology integrator and be able to work with a company from A to Z and provide them with all the services that they need to have a reliable internet connection and then everything that sits on top of that.
So was that the beginning of TechNet or
That was the beginning of TechNet, and it started with our first office was actually a small little office that was over like a storage center, like where you store your stuff. So it was really cool to kind of do that, and it's been fun. We built it from there all the way up to close to 300 employees now and about 2,000 partners that we work with nationwide.
wow.
So it's really cool going from just like we started actually in Huntington Beach, and then we ended up down here in Carlsbad, and we've gone from those small beginnings to right now where if you need a technician anywhere in the 50 states, we can have somebody there under 2 hours.
Wow.
So kind of a cool story that way.
It's a super cool story. And you're still probably, digging your metaphorical ditch, in
100%.
in your own way, and scaling it as well too, I'm sure. Take us through a little bit of both the industry that has changed since you started this, obviously, a lot, and even like company vision. Like, did you set out to go build a big company? And like what,
Yeah.
yeah, like take me through kind of what's changed from then to now.
Oh, great question. We actually, we only set out to build like a regional company. We wanted to be, work in San Diego County, LA County, Orange County. Um, what happened really was we had customers that we did a really good job for, and they came to depend on us. And, then they were in other states and they said, hey, can you work here? Can you do this? And, they really kind of grew from that. And, we didn't have this vision of being this large national company. That kind of just happened through doing a really good job. And I'll say this, it happened from hiring some amazing people that came on our team. And, when we got smart enough to hire people that were smarter than us, things changed, right? So we weren't afraid to bring in people that had, worked for bigger companies, worked in larger environments, and learn from them as well. So it was a learning experience, but it was really exciting to see what it could become.
Totally. Oh, the people's everything, especially in a service space like this, right? That's
100%.
a differentiator, but also the knowledge and ability to adapt with technology, right? Like you could have stayed on just kind of phones, right? And maybe cable and that, but technology has changed big time. And man, I can't wait to talk about the changes of now, but what have you seen technology from like what are the customers, what are they asking for versus you having to educate them on what they should be asking for over time?
I think that is a super relevant question, especially right now. Like there's so much change with like, I mean, AI is a big word, generative AI, like all these buzzwords that are out there. Like what exactly is that?
Yeah.
Um, even to like a big component of our company is using technology for life safety systems and situations like that. And I'll give you an example. We recently did a project for USC, University of Southern California, which was a complete audit and upgrade of their 911 system. And a lot of times those things are taken for granted, right? You just think they work. You think, oh, I can dial 911 and it's just going to work. That's not the reality. And as we've gone from an analog to digital world, there's definitely been some gaps there that have had to be filled. And it's interesting to see that you know if you look at some of the statistics on just our 911 systems across the US, a lot of issues,
Hmm.
a lot of changes and a lot of upgrades that are required just for life safety standards.
Wow. And we've not only is that, just for calling maybe for personal safety, but now fire and other safety, we're seeing infrastructure crumbling because things aren't get kept up. So that's an important piece for sure. I mean, we see this, I see the same on a little bit of infrastructure where like water and wastewater that all have these like pump stations that have to be able to talk and say something bad's happening. And, they're on old systems. They're on, like old communication systems, stuff like that. Yeah. So it's really important, like the pieces that we don't see behind the scenes
Yeah,
beyond
I think
all
a
the,
great example. Yeah, that was the LA fires, right? Like
yeah.
huge issue with just water pressure and having, I mean, those are things that are really taken for granted. I think, communications infrastructure is really similar, right? Like
Yeah.
everything's awesome and it's working, and when it's working, we don't really see what's behind the scenes and what's required to make all of that operate. Um, the second your internet's down, your world's over, right? Like you can't operate, you can't get things done. It's very similar to that.
Yeah. And we went through this big change of like, on-prem to off-prem and into cloud, right? So a lot of trusting that your systems work somewhere else and someone else can manage them. That was a big change I'm sure you went through. And then someone's coming back in to back onto on-prem, and a little bit more trust in automation of the systems as well too. Like what is, I know you mentioned generative AI, and AI is this big two-letter word to everyone, but there's still people behind the scenes turning a lot of these dials and stuff. Like, where do you see the industry kind of going technology
I
for
mean,
that?
yeah, that great question. I think there's been a huge shift towards, migration towards the cloud, and you look at how many data centers are being built right now. I mean, that's a big focus for TechNet is, supporting the, building of data centers, but also, servicing data centers and, doing upgrades. Like, just it's such an important piece, right? And I
Yep.
don't think you can grow fast enough in that space. I think that's something we're going to see over the next few years. Is just an incredible amount of building in that data center space. And,
Yep.
and there's a lot of things that have to fall into place for that happen. I think there's a lot of environmental concerns that we need to look at. Like we need to build stuff responsibly, and I don't see a lot of that in the industry right now. I think everybody's building so fast to keep up with it, and some of that stuff gets left behind. So that's one thing I'm very involved with in the industry, is making sure that if we're involved in these builds, we want to build green. We want to make sure we're doing our part to make sure the world's better, right? Not just
Yeah.
pushing as fast as we can to build data centers. And you know I'm hoping that's something that everybody can do more responsibly.
It's a good point. Because I think a lot of business owners get caught up in the, oh, am I supposed to be doing something right now because you heard some buzzword, right? Like you could own a laundromat, you could own a doctor's office, and you could be getting pulled into, you got to do something technology wise just because you're hearing about it. So the personalization piece matters a lot, which I'm guessing is a big part of kind of the service side of what you guys do as well too. Like, how do you, I don't know, how do you talk to a business owner and both kind of hear what their problems are versus also be like, hey, you know, this is the personalization piece that might actually help your business, and automate and save on costs and efficiencies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think in our industry, and you probably see this a lot in the tech industry, we do a lot of telling rather than
Mhm.
listening, right? We tell people what they need, but I think where we've been most successful is when we sit down with customers and we actually, find out what their technology plan is. Like, what are they trying to do what's their 5-year plan look like? Rather than just say you need the latest and greatest, like you should upgrade to this. Why don't you have that, right? So that's a big push for us, is really, taking the time to understand the needs of our customers. And, you know, we have a saying here at TechNet, we want to build a customer for life, right? And we look at the lifetime value of a customer, like what can we do to service that customer, and how do we help them build the infrastructure that they actually need? I see in our industry, there's a lot of, people that don't plan ahead and a lot of underbuilding. The flip side of that is there's a lot of people that overbuild too quickly and, spend money they don't need to spend.
Mhm. Yeah. And as business owners, we get caught up in just like signing up for a few different softwares, and then things like that. So it's good to audit, I would say, right? And talk to people that, I mean, especially right now with generative AI tools, I can't tell you how many different tools are getting shared in group chats, right? There's like, have you tried this? Have you seen this? It does this thing for you. I'm sure you're getting that a lot, right? It feels like the
Oh,
first time I'm really getting like so many technology referrals from all over, not just like the same kind of 5 people that used to send me cool stuff. Is that similar for you?
Oh, 100%. So I've gotten a little bit more active on LinkedIn lately, and
Mhm.
I'm seeing a ton of that, right? It's
Yeah.
exciting times right now. Technology is changing so quickly. It's funny because a lot of people I'll talk about AI all the time, and a lot of people go, "Oh, that's ChatGPT," but it's so much more than ChatGPT.
Yep.
Just the tools that are going to be available and are just incredible. Like I'm excited to see what the next few years look like. I'm not worried about jobs. People look at AI and they worry about jobs so much, but it's going to create so many new jobs.
Yeah.
Like there's so much potential out there, and really AI just creates this amazing potential to live a better life, right?
Hmm.
To have better balance.
Yeah, right. Work on the things, on the problems that you want that are hard, right? Because that's where the fun is working on something and solving something hard. And the stuff that that a computer can do, great. Like solve that. I'd love to hand that off. Are you seeing teammates, like people at the company, like trying stuff and bringing things forward and being like, hey, I'm using this tool in this way and kind of new ways to see how to do stuff internally as a company?
Yeah, all the time and more so than ever. One example I kind of point out is we do a lot of design work, and even
Mm.
just the technology with design. Like 10 years ago, I thought it was super cool that I could use Google Earth to like take measurements and do all sorts of different things. The amount of stuff that we can do with AI just on the design side is incredible. So we have designs that, tech designs that are, very technical, but like we're able to, you know, take those and put them into different programs that we're using that are AI based, and just like our mean time to design and to deliver a design to the client has probably tripled in the last year. So
Wow,
it's really incredible.
that's awesome.
Give us the opportunity to, maybe on a project where I can think of one that we did a little while ago. We were working on a project with Beyond Meat on like a design project, and we wouldn't have put that much time into it had it not been that easy to do, right? So there's a lot more that we can do in less time now, and it really makes a difference. And sometimes the effort and the time that we can put into, even delivering like a response to an RFP or an RFQ. So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's great. What are you seeing? Let's talk a little about the local scene because you've been in Southern California now for a while. You even mentioned some businesses you're working with here. What are you seeing? Anything unique or different of a community of Southern California? And I know from San Diego, we kind of sometimes look at north of San Diego as Northern California, but
We
uh,
totally, you're not wrong about that. That's pretty funny.
But, like what do you see from a tech ecosystem? Are you seeing more tech being built locally and more tech kind of infiltrating into and the talent as well? Like anything across that part?
Yeah, so San Diego is a unique market, right? A lot of bioscience, biotech, a lot of those startup companies too, which is really exciting. We've worked in some of that, and a ton of military stuff going on here. We've done a lot of work with the U.S. Navy, with Air Force, so we do get into some of that. Some pretty unique and interesting projects there.
Hmm.
Um, we just finished a project not too long ago. We did the Wi-Fi for the San Diego Padres, so it was a partnership with TechNet and Extreme Network. So that was a really cool design to get in there and change the game there. And that's led to a bunch of other work that we're doing with Major League Baseball
Hmm.
across a lot of different ballparks. So pretty exciting stuff on that side. Yeah, I love working in San Diego. So I'll tell kind of a funny story. Before, when we started in Huntington Beach and we tried to do work in San Diego, it was really difficult to kind of build trust. So San Diego is a different place where like, I don't know, I could drop from outer space and land in LA and have business tomorrow. In San Diego, you have to earn trust. So it's a smaller market, but I really love the ability to work with folks in San Diego. It's just really awesome. And, it's different. You can
Hmm.
really trust there and build long-term customers. And, it's been really awesome for us.
That's cool to hear. I feel that too. It's like a big little town. It's almost like
Yeah.
the Midwest values plopped on the ocean kind of thing. And I think that's from a lot of people from the Midwest coming here for weather and military, and having, those values where they want to like be able to shake your hand, which is unique, I think, for on the West Coast.
Now, one thing I love about San Diego is we've been able to hire a lot of people that are coming out of the military. And
Mm.
it's just been a really awesome pipeline for us to find great people with great values, and, and also and some pretty cool technology skill sets that they bring, from their military service time. So that's been awesome for us.
That's very cool. And I totally could see how their skill sets are relevant. I mean, they're working on a variety of technologies that are old and new, having to make them work, having to make them communicate no matter what. And like failure is not an option. So having that kind of background seems like it'd be pretty great and relevant to put them right to work, right?
No, absolutely.
You mentioned stadium stuff, and we actually previously have had on from the Cox side some of the leading engineers and hospitality leaders from Cox. And you said you're working kind of across the country, but also locally. We've got a bunch of new stadiums now in Southern California, whether it's up in Oceanside, they got that new stadium, and the Snapdragon and the Intuit Dome. Are you starting to do? Is that kind of becoming like an area where stadium focus in the hospitality world?
Yeah, we do quite a bit of that. In fact, we've actually supported Cox Communications in that space for a long time. So just even, with some design work and consulting we did for Allegiant Stadium up in Las Vegas. So
Mm-hmm.
our partnership with Cox has that's been a real highlight of our business, right? Even when we were a small business, we had the opportunity to work with Cox from the beginning. What I love about Cox Communications is it's a big business with a small business feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because it's still a private company, but like this because you work with the people from Cox, just amazing people.
Yeah.
It's I would say one thing that my customers always share is that like, I'll always point them towards Cox Communications for whatever services make sense. And it's like, people at Cox are always accessible. If you reach out in their tech support and all these different, all those areas, that Cox is really available. And I love that. That's not the same with some of these larger MSOs. They're very big and you just really get lost.
Yeah, and what I see from them just from that like they've got a very long-term focus, which I think is the private company, fourth generation family still involved. They make these long-term bets, both on technology side and in people. Like I've seen them, turn create these edge networks from all their data centers and be like, what could we do with that? How could we bring better, service to 7 million people when it's outside their home? So that fires me up as well too when people are long-term focused because in the startup game, like we're working on 10, 20-year kind of businesses and communities, and so it's nice to have a part like that as well too. So that's good to hear in that regard. Um, let's talk a little bit more just kind of future focused. We talked a bunch about AI, but there's the AI that's real, and then there's also the AI that's the buzzword, right?
Yeah.
And last few years it was IoT, and the few years before that it was edge computing. So how do you cut through the noise? Like how do you know and figure out what to personally invest in and versus like that's just the fad of the year.
Yeah. I think the test for me is like finding actual utility.
Hmm.
That's a big one, right? And that's kind of how I separate things. I'll look at a new technology and, I want to know how useful is this? What can you do with it? I think that's a big push. And, we get a lot of questions from customers. They hear these buzzwords and they're like, all right, how do I use AI in my company? Like, and, things are changing. I mean, if you I'm looking at a couple industries like hospitality, we do a lot in the hospitality industry and like, AI is really game changing for those guys. There's just so many different systems that are, they're being automated. One area we've been involved with Amazon for about 10 years now. And I don't know if you're familiar with their just walkout stores. So it's a cashierless technology where you can go in and it doesn't require a cashier and you walk in and grab your items and you leave. So they have a couple concepts. So one is called the Amazon Go stores, and those are kind of like a 7-Eleven style convenience store. A lot of those are in like stadiums, universities, those kind of areas. And then their larger grocery concept, which is Amazon Fresh, is kind of is similar, right? Those are areas where you have a company like Amazon that's kind of, they're on that periphery. They're looking for different technologies and seeing how they really apply. And I think what's cool about Amazon is they have the money to try out some of these really interesting technologies. But for me, seeing how useful that can be, versus like, what are some of the ethical considerations, right? A lot of people will say, well, is that going to take people's jobs away, right? And and this is a really interesting one because it actually takes more people to operate the tech side of that than it would to put people in a store right now, right?
Hmm.
If you look at like you have employees at Amazon that are managing this, you have TechNet and other companies like TechNet that service and do installations in those stores and locations, right? So
Hmm.
it's cool to see that, and so yeah, I think the big thing for me is like what's useful, what can it do versus what is it supposed to do in the future, and kind of looking at things that way.
It's a really good point. And by the way, Amazon Fresh, I think I just saw they finally opened that one in Poway, right? Is that where I think I
Ah,
saw one of those open, right? Where you can
yep,
walk out? Yeah.
yep.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the talent part because, obviously there's been stock work people who stock shelves who what they mean is they know flow and route and actual product utilization really well, right? Like they know how much
Definitely.
more rice is getting picked up than jam, right? Which is great intelligence to teach an AI system of, like how to preempt that. And how to do maybe some image classification. So I think, yeah, the kind of the human intelligence aspect powering these things is kind of interesting to think about because, yeah, they're the experts of like what do humans do in a grocery store. No one knows until now. So that's pretty cool in that regard. Um, and also the fintech piece too, right? So now the payments piece. You mentioned hospitality, like the thinking of being able to like order from any app or through QR code, all from the phone, and that just magically flows back to the kitchen and up to the front. Like that doesn't just happen by magic, right? Like there's a lot of tech that goes into that too.
There's a ton of tech behind the scenes, right? A lot of places where it can go wrong, and yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's awesome. Well, because of that, it makes total sense why you would get honored at the Top Tech Awards this year, which is this awesome, awesome event every year where the technical leaders of our community are recognized by their peers. So congrats on winning a Top Tech Award in 2024 at the in the private small business category. Congrats there.
Thanks, totally appreciate that. And it was an education for me too, because I didn't know a lot about the Top Tech Awards. And I was able to meet a lot of interesting people. I'll tell a funny story here. So my family was super excited that I won the award, and then they watched the videos of all the other people that won awards, and my daughter's like, Dad, everything everybody else does is super interesting except for what you do.
Oh,
So it was pretty funny. But it's amazing. I mean, just I think that really highlights there's such a group of amazing, technologists and people here in San Diego. And that's one thing I love about the Top Tech Awards is it like recognizes those folks. And I'm not talking about like CEOs, it's the CTOs and the COOs and even engineers and designers. It's really cool to see those people get recognized because that doesn't happen often. And it was cool for me personally. It was awesome to win that award, but it was also super awesome just for the recognition that for TechNet, right?
mhm.
Yeah, so it was a really cool experience. It was at Snapdragon Stadium, and there was a lot of people there, and just really awesome event that Sarah put on for Top Tech. So it was really cool to be a part of that.
That's awesome. That's cool recognition to know, being you're surrounded by peers, right? These are other leaders who have come up and figure out how to solve problems and solve problems at scale. But more importantly, like manage leaders and the next generation of leaders, right? Like that's what you mentioned from the beginning is you've assembled a great team and therefore you've empowered people to lead and solve other people's problems. I think that's, kind of the magic there is that being around other peers and then recognizing the next generation of leaders there too, which I think now you get to be on that committee, right? Now that you've won an award, you get to help kind of select next year's, which is a kind of a cool concept as well too.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. So I get to be a judge. I also get to nominate a few people this year. So I'm working on my nominations right now. Just a shout out to anybody that's thinking about anybody in the San Diego tech scene. Great opportunity to put a nomination out there and let people know what they do. And we need to let people know that technology is fun and it's interesting and it matters, right? So I think it's a good opportunity for that.
100%. Good call out. Yeah, I've got to go nominate uh, all my portfolio founders of the ones of the companies I've invested in. That's for sure.
Love it.
So that's a good pool there. And then yeah, any of my past peers as well too. Make sure you get your nominations in before May 2nd. And there's a variety of categories. There's startup, rising star, education, academics, government, enterprise, like there's kind of a recognition of a lot of different categories of technology leaders. So we'll make sure we add a link to the show notes there. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there because it's always a fun party.
Love
That's
it.
for sure. Yeah,
It's
uh,
it's a great party. Good times.
it is. Oh, but speaking of that, so you're now, on the other side. You're an award-winning technical leader here. What are you giving advice to people on, like, what's whether you're just getting started, and you're kind of thinking through, what could I be doing to scale infrastructure and scale people? Like, what advice would you be giving people right now?
Yeah, the great question. I think my advice is just to do something that you love, right? For me, technology is absolutely something I'm passionate about. I love it. I enjoy it. I'm constantly learning and studying. I really consider myself a lifelong learner. And I think that's been, key to our success here at TechNet. I see it in the folks at Cox Communication, like things are always changing, right? And you really have to be, the most difficult thing for people is change, right? So being open to change and, I think is an important piece. So do what you love. I think that's number one. Um, Number two is put in the work. So once you pick what you're interested in, you've got to commit to it, right? And I'm not saying not in a fun way, but you have to commit to it, that you're willing to put the time in, the work. And the third piece I would just say is find a mentor. There's so many people that are willing to mentor folks out there. I've had some incredible mentors that have made a huge difference in my career path and in the company I've been part of building. Like without those folks, and I'm sure you've had the same, Neal, right? There's opportunities for that. And I would say if you're a professional that's been in the industry for 20 plus years, look for people that are open to mentorship, because they're there. They need it.
100%. That's amazing. Well, thanks for what you do, Floyd. Really appreciate that. You mentioned you've gotten more active on LinkedIn, so we'll link to your LinkedIn. Is that the best way people could get in contact with
That
you
is
if
the
they want
best way
to?
to reach me. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm out there
And
all kinds of new content and technical stuff, and there seems to be an audience for that. I think there's a lot of LinkedIn's a platform that's relatively, I don't want to say it's new, but it's relatively, people are coming back to it and people are finding a lot of utility and use in it. And for me, it's different than an Instagram or some of the other platforms out there. It's an opportunity. It's really been a professional platform, but
Mhm.
it's also becoming a platform where you can have conversations about different things that you're passionate about. So I think it's a good
Yeah,
opportunity. Well,
I agree. I probably spend most of my time on there as well, of all the platforms, because one, the content, people do digest long form content really well there. It's not 100 characters. You can go long. People stay and watch whole videos on there, and the content actually stays up for a few weeks. I find it has really good staying power. It's not like up, gone in a second after you post it. People are still commenting on stuff 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. So I agree. You can kind of go deep within your network there, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you on there as well too.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
and thanks for putting in the time on that, because a lot of people, it's just a distraction, but for the ones who commit to that part as well too, it means a lot to be able to share from that already as well too. We've talked a lot about tech. We got to talk tacos. Otherwise, this wouldn't be the Tacos and Tech podcast.
Taco
Uh,
Bell. No,
Yeah, and in San Diego, yeah, every answer matters here. What is your favorite? Is it Taco Bell?
no. So I do like Taco Bell, and my son would be really proud if I said Taco Bell was my favorite. But I'm actually going to go with TJ Tacos in Escondido. Solid taco. I'm a big fan of the carne asada taco. Get a little bit of guacamole on that and
Hmm.
crispy edge on the cheese. It's an amazing bite. So
Yep.
yeah,
TJ Tacos is legendary for sure.
there's
And I think,
so many locations in San Diego, right? Hard to pick one, but
yeah,
that's my spot.
love it. Well, it's a great spot. I think it's been named a few times on the podcast. We'll go and check our database, which we have. We have got a database, and we're working on a visualization of every taco spot that's ever been mentioned.
Can't wait to see
Uh,
that.
Yeah, it is now. I think we have at least all over North America, if not multi-continent based taco spots, which is kind of fun to categorize as well here as well too. Well, Floyd, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing kind of the day in the life behind the scenes, but also to know third generation of tech worker is pretty cool here in Southern California. So I'm sure your grandpa's pretty proud. Happy birthday, early birthday to him. And thanks again for what you do and for inspiring the next leaders here of technology workers in town.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Neil. It was great being here with you.
Likewise. Thanks, Floyd. Appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you.
Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got tacos and tech is on smash. For the green, guacamole, keep accountants counting beans. Contador cuentan frijoles, founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego, school of rappy, rapping fire. Tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee, my coding yoga posse, fold the body, origami. We be surfing Coronado, eating tacos el gordo. The taco stand in puesto, lucha libre and sombrero. Gotta shout out tech costeños by the ocean, watch the sunset. La Jolla shores, entrepreneurs trying to get funded. When San Diego Startup Week is popping in the summer, Oceanside to Tijuana, SD be full of hustlers. From couch surfing to penthouses right on the beach. Tech leaders who believe stars are within reach. We interviewing founders who be shooting for the moon. Hashtag SD Techos with your host, Neal Bloom. Come on! Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got it, eh? Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started.